Alright, so this one time, I was gaming late into the night. You know how it goes. It was one of those marathon sessions where you lose track of time and suddenly it's like 2 a.m. I was playing this new horror game that had just come out, and man, it was intense. The kind that really messes with your head. I usually don't get scared easily, but this one had me on edge. It was the perfect mix of creepy atmosphere, unexpected jump scares, and that unsettling feeling of being watched. You know the type, right? Anyway, I was completely immersed in it. My room was dark, the only light coming from the screen, and I had my headphones on to really get into the mood. The game had this creepy abandoned house setting, and it played all these subtle sounds in the background. Creaks, footsteps, whispers, that made it feel like someone was right there with you. It was really well done. I was at this part where you had to explore this basement. Classic horror game move, right? It was pitch black, and you only had this flickering flashlight. As I was creeping through, I started to hear these weird noises. Not in the game, but in my apartment, like a soft tapping sound. At first I thought it was just part of the game, some extra layer of creepiness to mess with you. But then I realized it was coming from behind me. I paused the game and took off my headphones, just sitting there in the dark, listening. The tapping continued, kind of irregular, like someone lightly knocking on a door or tapping on a window. My heart started racing because I live on the third floor, and there's no way anyone could be tapping on my window. It's not like there's a fire escape or anything. I turned around and looked at the window, but of course it was pitch black outside. I couldn't see anything. I sat there for a moment just staring, trying to convince myself it was just my mind playing tricks on me because of the game. I almost went back to playing, but the tapping started again. This time it was louder, like someone was knocking harder. I stood up slowly, my eyes glued to the window. I walked over to it, trying to be as quiet as possible, which is ridiculous now that I think about it. Like whoever or whatever it was wouldn't know I was there. I got to the window and, with my heart pounding in my chest, pulled the curtain back a tiny bit. There was nothing there, just darkness. I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. I stood there for a while, just watching, waiting for something to happen. But it was dead quiet. The tapping had stopped. I took a deep breath and let the curtain fall back into place. It must have been some branch tapping against the window or something, I thought. I was just getting paranoid because of the game. I went back to my desk, put the headphones back on, and unpaused the game. Tried to shake off that creepy feeling and focus on getting through the basement part. But then, as soon as I started moving in the game again, the tapping came back. This time, it was more like a scratching sound, like nails dragging across the glass. I whipped around, staring at the window again. My heart was racing, my palms were sweaty, and every instinct was telling me to get the hell out of there. I don't know why I didn't just turn on the lights or call someone. I guess part of me was still in that game mindset where you just push through the fear because, it's not real. But this was different. This wasn't the game. I got up again and slowly walked over to the window. The scratching continued, slow and deliberate, like it was taunting me. I reached out and pulled the curtain back, this time quickly, yanking it open to see what was there. And again, nothing. Just darkness and the faint reflection of my own terrified face in the glass. I stood there, breathing heavily, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Was I losing it? Was the game messing with my head that much? I was about to close the curtain again when something caught my eye. A flicker of movement, just a quick blur at the edge of the window. I froze, my eyes darting back and forth, trying to see if it was real or just my imagination. I stood there for what felt like forever, staring at the darkness outside, but nothing happened. I finally let the curtain drop and backed away, my skin crawling. I decided I'd had enough of the game for the night. I turned off my PC and the monitor, plunging the room into complete darkness. I flicked on the overhead light, feeling a little better with the room lit up, but still unnerved. I needed to calm down, so I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. I was standing there, drinking, when I heard it again, the tapping. But this time, it wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the hallway. I set the glass down, my hands shaking. The hallway was right next to the kitchen, and from where I was standing, I could see part of it, but not all the way down. The tapping was faint, but it was definitely there, like someone gently knocking on the wall. I took a deep breath and slowly walked towards the hallway, each step feeling heavier than the last. My heart was pounding in my ears, and every instinct was screaming at me to just get out of the apartment. But I had to know what it was. I had to know I wasn't just imagining things. I peeked around the corner into the hallway, and it was empty. Just the same dark, narrow hallway leading to the bedrooms and the bathroom. I stood there, listening, waiting for the tapping to start again, but it didn't. It was dead silent. I was about to turn back when I heard something else. A soft, almost inaudible whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it was coming from one of the bedrooms. The door to my room was slightly ajar, and the whispering was coming from there. I crept towards the door, my heart feeling like it was going to burst out of my chest. I pushed the door open slowly, my eyes scanning the room. It was dark, but I could make out the shapes of the furniture. My bed, the dresser, the closet, nothing out of place. The whispering stopped as soon as I stepped into the room. I flipped on the light switch, flooding the room with light. It was empty. Just my room, exactly as I'd left it. I felt a wave of relief, but it was quickly replaced by confusion and fear. What the hell was going on? I checked the closet, under the bed, everywhere, but there was nothing. I was alone. I went back to the hallway, turned on all the lights in the apartment, and sat down on the couch. I was freaking out, trying to rationalize what had just happened. It had to be in my head. The game had gotten to me, made me paranoid. That's all it was. I sat there for a while, trying to calm down, when my phone buzzed. I jumped, startled by the sudden noise. It was a notification from one of my security cameras. I had a couple set up around the apartment, mostly for peace of mind. I opened the app to check the footage. The camera in the hallway showed nothing but the empty hallway. No movement, no sound, just the empty space. I checked the camera by the front door, the one that showed the outside hallway. That's when I saw it. There was someone standing in the hallway outside my apartment. The camera had caught just a glimpse of them, standing right in front of my door. It was blurry and dark, but I could see the outline of a person, just standing there, not moving, not knocking, just standing there. I watched the footage over and over, my mind racing. Who the hell was that? And why were they just standing there? I wanted to call the cops, but what would I say? That there was a blurry figure standing outside my apartment? I checked the live feed, but whoever it was, they were gone. The hallway was empty. I kept staring at the screen, waiting for them to come back, but they didn't. I finally worked up the courage to go to the door and look through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I stood there, my heart pounding, trying to decide what to do. Should I open the door and look, call someone? But what if they came back? What if they were still out there, just waiting for me to open the door? I decided to leave it locked and just stay put. I went back to the couch, my eyes glued to the security feed on my phone. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat there, waiting for something to happen, for that figure to come back. But they never did. The hallway stayed empty. The tapping and the whispering never came back either. The sun finally started to come up, and I felt a little better with the daylight creeping in. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been in my apartment that night, something that wasn't supposed to be there. I checked the footage again in the morning, but the figure was gone. Just a single frame of a blurry outline, like a ghost or something. I still don't know what it was, or if it was even real. Maybe I was just losing it, or maybe it was the game messing with my head. But I stopped playing horror games at night after that, and every time I hear a tapping or a whisper, I can't help but look over my shoulder, half expecting to see that figure standing there, watching me. Alright, so this happened not too long ago, and it still freaks me out whenever I think about it. You know how most nights you just want to unwind, right? Maybe watch some Netflix or play some games. Well, this night was no different for me. I just gotten a new game I've been waiting for. One of those immersive first-person shooters with a big online community. I've been looking forward to this all week, planning to spend my Friday night gaming with some friends. I got everything set up. Headphones, snacks, the whole deal. I was ready for a night of uninterrupted gaming. My apartment is usually quiet, which is one of the reasons I like living there. I can lose myself in games without any distractions. The game loaded up, and I joined a lobby with a few buddies from work. We were all pumped, chatting away, and getting ready to dive into a few matches. We were about an hour in, just getting into the groove, when I noticed something weird. It was this slight background noise in my headphones. At first, I thought it was some kind of in game sound effect, maybe part of the ambient noise they put in to make things feel more realistic. But then I realized it was more like static, like the sound you hear when a microphone is picking up interference. I asked my friends if they heard it too, but they said everything was fine on their end. So I shrugged it off, figuring it was just a glitch or something. But the noise kept coming and going, and it was starting to mess with my concentration. It sounded like whispering, almost like someone was trying to say something, but it was too faint to make out. I was getting kind of annoyed, so I decided to mute my mic and see if it would go away. And it did for a bit. But then, a few minutes later, it came back, louder this time. It was definitely not just static. It was like someone was whispering directly into my ears. I couldn't make out any words, but it was this low, muffled voice, just on the edge of hearing. I started getting this uneasy feeling, but I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I kept playing. My friends were still chatting away, completely unaware of what I was hearing. I tried to ignore it, focus on the game, but the whispering was getting under my skin. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me, like there were eyes on me from somewhere in the room. I paused the game and took off my headphones for a second, listening to the apartment. It was dead quiet, no sounds from outside, nothing unusual. I was starting to think maybe I was just imagining things. Maybe I was so tired that my mind was playing tricks on me. I put the headphones back on, and for a while, everything was fine. No weird noises, just the usual game sounds and my friends talking. I was beginning to relax again, thinking it was just some random interference. But then, out of nowhere, there was this loud screeching noise in my headphones, like feedback from a microphone. It was so sudden and loud that I yanked the headphones off, my heart racing. I could hear my friends asking what happened, why I went silent. I told them I had some kind of audio issue and I'd be right back. I muted my mic again and took a deep breath, trying to calm down. I was getting really creeped out, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. I mean, this is just a game, right? Stuff like this doesn't happen in real life. I decided to get up and take a break, maybe get some water, clear my head. As I stood up, I caught a glimpse of something on my computer screen. It was subtle, but it was like there was a flicker, a shadow moving across the screen. I froze, staring at it, waiting for it to happen again, but nothing. I laughed it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid. I turned around to head to the kitchen, but as I did, I heard it again, that whispering. Except this time, it wasn't in my headphones. It was coming from behind me, from somewhere in the room. I turned around so fast, almost tripping over my chair. My eyes scanned the room, but there was nothing. Just my computer, the empty chair, and the faint glow of the screen. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt this cold sweat starting to form on my forehead. I told myself I was just tired, that I was freaking myself out over nothing. But then I noticed something on the computer screen that made my blood run cold. The game was still running, but there was something on the screen that shouldn't have been there. It was like a figure, a silhouette, standing in the shadows of the in-game environment, just staring directly at my character. I knew the game inside and out. There was no way that was part of the level design. It was like someone had hacked into my game or something, but that didn't make any sense. I took a step closer to the screen, trying to get a better look. The figure was still there, not moving, just watching. I moved my character forward, trying to see if it would react, but it just stood there. I was about to take a screenshot to show my friends, but as I reached for the keyboard, the figure suddenly moved. It darted off screen in a blur, like it was running away. I almost fell backward, my heart in my throat. I quickly switched to the chat to tell my friends what I saw, but they had all gone silent. I checked the lobby, and it showed that everyone had disconnected, leaving just me in the game. That made no sense. They were just there a minute ago. Then the whispering started again, this time louder and clearer. It was coming from my headphones, but they were on the desk, not on my head. I could hear it coming from the speakers, this distorted voice saying something I couldn't understand. I was officially freaking out. I ripped the power cord from my computer, shutting everything off instantly. The room went dark, except for the faint glow from the streetlights outside. I stood there, my breathing heavy, trying to process what the hell just happened. After a few minutes, I started to calm down. I told myself it was just some glitch, some weird bug in the game that got into my head. But as I was standing there, Trying to rationalize it, I heard something that made my skin crawl. It was the sound of typing coming from my computer. I looked over, but the screen was off. The whole system was powered down. There was no way it could be making any noise, but I heard it clear as day. Keys clicking, like someone was typing on the keyboard. I stared at the dark screen, my eyes wide, feeling this cold wave of fear wash over me. I reached for my phone, ready to call someone, anyone, but then the typing stopped. And in the silence that followed, I heard a faint, raspy breath. It was right behind me, so close I could almost feel it on the back of my neck. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just stood there, paralyzed with fear, my mind racing with all sorts of terrifying possibilities. After what felt like an eternity, I finally mustered up the courage to turn around. There was nothing there, just my empty apartment, silent and still. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room with all the lights on, clutching a kitchen knife, my eyes fixed on the doorway to my room. I don't know what I expected to happen, but I wasn't taking any chances. The next day, I packed up my computer and took it to a friend's place. I didn't even want it in my apartment anymore. We checked it out together, trying to find any sign of a virus or a hack, but there was nothing. The game files were clean, no malware, no sign of anyone tampering with anything. It was like nothing had ever happened. To this day, I still don't know what it was. Was it a glitch? Some kind of elaborate prank? Or was it something else? Something I can't even begin to explain. I've thought about it so many times, trying to make sense of it, but I always come up empty. I've gone back to gaming since then, but it's never quite the same. I'm always on edge, always checking over my shoulder, making sure I'm alone. I don't play with the lights off anymore, and I always keep my door locked. Maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe I was just tired and stressed out. But whatever it was, it felt real enough to scare the hell out of me. And sometimes, late at night when I'm gaming alone, I'll catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye. Just a shadow or a flicker on the screen. And every time my heart skips a beat, and I remember that night. So yeah, that's my story. It's probably nothing, just a weird coincidence or a glitch, but it's something I'll never forget. And if you're ever gaming late at night, just remember, sometimes it's not just a game. Alright, so there was this one night, I remember like it was yesterday. I had this free evening with nothing planned. So I thought I'd spend it gaming, you know? Just me, some snacks, and my computer. Sounds perfect, right? So I settled in with my favorite game, a few cans of soda, and the night stretched out ahead of me. I didn't have any idea that it was going to turn into one of the creepiest experiences of my life. I had this habit of playing in the dark, just the screen lighting up my room. There's something about the glow from the monitor that just makes the whole experience feel more immersive. And I was in the zone, totally absorbed. The game I was playing was this intense, atmospheric horror game. You know the type, eerie music, jump scares, that whole vibe. I was so into it that I didn't even notice how quiet the house had become. At some point, I started feeling like something was off. You ever get that weird sensation, like you're being watched? That was me sitting there, feeling a little uneasy. I brushed it off at first, figuring it was just the game messing with my head. Those things are designed to make you feel on edge, right? But this felt different. I kept playing, trying to shake off the feeling, but it just got worse. It was like the air in the room had changed, gotten thicker somehow. I paused the game for a second, pulled off my headset, and just listened. Nothing. Not even the usual hum of the fridge or the creak of the house settling. It was dead silent. I couldn't even hear the cars from the street outside, which was weird because there's usually some traffic, even late at night. So I got up to check around the house, thinking maybe I was just being paranoid. I flicked on a couple of lights as I went from room to room. Kitchen, bathroom, living room. Everything seemed fine. No open windows, no weird shadows lurking in the corners. It was just normal. But still, that feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. I went back to my room, sat down, and put the headset back on. The game was paused on this eerie, dark corridor, with shadows flickering at the edges of the screen. Perfect. I unpaused, and the creepy music kicked back in. I was trying to get back into the zone, but my focus kept drifting. Then I heard it. A creak. I pulled off my headset again and listened. The kind of creak you hear when someone steps on an old wooden floor. My house has a few creaky spots, so I know where they are. This one came from the hallway, right outside my door. My heart started pounding in my chest. I was sure I was alone. I was alone, right? I got up, grabbed the nearest thing that could serve as a weapon, my keyboard. Yeah, not exactly a baseball bat, but it felt better than nothing. I opened my bedroom door slowly, peeking out into the hallway. It was dark, the only light coming from my room. I flicked the hallway switch, and the light flickered on, revealing nothing, just the empty hallway leading to the other rooms. I walked down the hall, every step making the floor creak beneath me. I checked the front door. It was locked. Double-checked the windows, also locked. So, I was either going crazy or there was something else going on here. I went back to my room, still feeling on edge. I figured maybe some fresh air would help clear my head, so I cracked open a window. The cool night air rushed in, and I took a deep breath. I glanced out the window, looking at the empty street below, and for a split second, I thought I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look directly at it, but there was nothing there. Just shadows playing tricks on me, I thought. I sat back down, trying to focus on the game again, but it was useless. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to call it a night, maybe watch some funny videos to lighten the mood. I closed the game, pulled up my browser, and that's when my computer screen flickered. Just for a second, but it was enough to make my stomach drop. I thought maybe it was just a glitch or something, but then it happened again. The screen went completely black, and then a face. Just for a fraction of a second, a face flashed on the screen. Pale, gaunt, eyes wide open, staring directly at me. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, and I was left staring at my desktop background. My heart was racing. What the hell was that? I didn't even have a webcam connected, so how could something like that show up? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was some kind of ad pop-up, or a bug, or I don't know. I clicked around, checking to see if any programs were open, but there was nothing, just the usual stuff. I was seriously starting to freak out now. And then I heard the creak again. This time it was louder, closer, right outside my bedroom door. I froze, listening. There was a pause, and then a soft knock. 3 knocks, slow and deliberate. My blood ran cold. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? But what would I say? That I saw a face on my computer screen and heard a noise? I decided to check the door. I know, probably not the smartest move, but I had to know. I got up slowly, my hands shaking. I grabbed the keyboard again, yeah, still my weapon of choice, and approached the door. The knocking had stopped, but the air was heavy with this presence. I could feel it, something just beyond the door. I reached for the doorknob, hesitated for a moment, and then yanked the door open. Nothing. The hallway was empty, just like before, but this time the light was off, even though I was sure I had left it on. I flipped the switch, but the light didn't come on. The bulb must have burned out or something. Great timing. I stood there, staring into the dark hallway, trying to convince myself to close the door and go back to my game. Or better yet, go to bed and forget this ever happened. But I couldn't move. It was like my feet were glued to the floor. And then, from the darkness, I heard it. A whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but it was there, soft and sinister, like someone was standing just inches away, whispering into my ear. I slammed the door shut, heart pounding. I locked it, as if that would somehow keep whatever was out there. I sat back at my desk, trying to calm down, telling myself it was all in my head, just a combination of the game, the dark, my imagination running wild. I was just about to turn off my computer and call it a night when I noticed something on the screen. My desktop background had changed. It was now a black screen with a single line of text in the center. I see you. I jumped out of my chair, heart racing. How the hell did that happen? Was someone messing with me? I unplugged my computer, breathing heavily, trying to make sense of what was happening. I felt like I was losing my mind. I decided to check my house one last time, make sure there was really no one here. I grabbed a flashlight and walked through each room, shining the light into every corner, every closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. The house was empty. I went back to my room, sat on the bed, and just stared at my computer. I didn't plug it back in. I didn't want to. I just sat there, trying to process everything. Then I heard it again. The creak. But this time, it wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside my room. I slowly turned my head, scanning the room with the flashlight, and that's when I saw it. In the corner of the room, where the shadows were deepest, something moved. Something dark, shifting, just out of reach of the flashlight's beam. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, as the shadow shifted and grew. It started to take shape, forming into a figure, a person, standing there, watching me. I shone the flashlight directly at it, and it vanished. Just like that, gone. I was left staring at an empty corner, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, flashlight in hand, staring at the corner where the shadow had been, waiting, but nothing else happened. The house was silent, the room was empty, but that feeling of being watched, it never went away. The next morning, I packed up my computer and took it to a friend who knows about tech stuff. He checked it out, said there was nothing wrong with it. No viruses, no weird programs, nothing. It was perfectly fine. But I knew better. I knew something had happened that night, something I couldn't explain. I haven't gamed alone in the dark since then. I always keep the lights on, always keep a phone nearby, just in case. I don't know what it was that I saw, what was in my house that night, but every now and then,